The way you make love, sweet darling. That ain't the way you make love. You've been turning around uptown, doing some fancy clown, doing some fancy clown. You've been turning around uptown, doing some fancy clown, doing some fancy clown. I hear you in the background.
One of the unusual things about this group is that each guy in the group can lead. Any guy in the group can do it.
Straight out the Ville. It's the BackAlley Podcast.
They said we could never make it. They said
Billy got it bumping. In the back alley. Taking shots of whiskey and only go.
One, two, three in the place to be. What's going on, everybody? It's the BackAlley Podcast.
Going on?
Yo. What's up? 2/3 Louisville stand up. Yo, it's your host, Mike D, Big Pat, Brother Six. We all up in the mix. It's the BackAlley Podcast. And you know what we're here to do. Talk that talk, walk that walk. We're here to just bring up conversations, have a good time, laugh, joke, but really just throw some things out there for the community to talk about and just see where we at with it. So at this moment, Big Pat, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, brother. First, give all honor to the Most High. I want to say that any day above ground is a great day. So,
indeed.
In the midst of you, brothers.
Well said.
Brother Reggie and his family.
Indeed.
And I'm just glad to be here, man. How about y'all?
Doing all right there, brother. Doing all right. Mike, I'm doing good. Big Pat, I'm doing good, man. Well, I'm pretty sure that joke will be thrown late. I'm not.
Now you good,
praise
brother.
be to Allah, man.
Say nothing about CE.
Yeah, we not doing no. You know that's
all the to all my family and loved ones out there, man. Peace be to everyone. I'm doing quite well. Want to give a shout out to all of Louisville, especially 23rd, coming through one time. For those listeners, please tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody. Please tune in and check out what we got to say. How you doing there, brother Mike?
All is well. Shout out, and again, all praises due to the Most High, the creator of all things, the causeless cause, the rootless root. Shout out to our brother Reggie.
Yes, sir.
May continue to rest in heaven well, look down on us, and to all our fallen comrades and the ancestors known and unknown. We give honor and praise to them. Definitely appreciate them. Shout out to Louisville, shout out to Nap, shout out to Columbus, South Carolina, P&J's Turkey, and all that, you know what I mean? Everything is good, man. Everything is good. So we'll get right into the mix. Y'all sipping on anything, Pat? What you got? You sipping on anything special today?
Yeah, man, this is a new one for me. So
Uh-oh.
I got some plain old H2O.
Hey,
Just a little water, man.
hey,
I'm to cleanse a little bit.
look at
I
God.
want to keep my eyes clear and everything. I don't want them to get milky.
Look at him. What about you, Six?
I got some.
I'm just drinking a little water, a little H2O.
What you got, brother Six?
Well, I ain't got no milk duds in my eyes. I got some red wine, sweet red wine is what I got in my red cup.
Okay.
What you drinking on? What you drinking on, Mike D?
Okay,
I'm
here we
drinking
go.
it. No.
Tea?
No, man, I just got some gold tea, bro. You know, the green tea is back in business. You know, I think that an embargo or something is off, but damn gas prices so damn high. I'm starting making my own tea. We're gonna have to talk about that one day. I almost had to get a loan to just get some gas one day. That being said, let's set it off then. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. You ready? So anyone that's watching, listening, if you got something in your cup, raise it with us, please. Bottles, glasses, cups that are plastic, alleyways backwards, perfection takes practice. Friendship turned kinship, 2/3 of the street dynastic.
Brotherhood from the neighborhood. This podcast is going to be a classic. A divine state of mind. I'm moving sublime on the rocks. Brother, give me something strong.
A mix of slice of lime. Put your drink up. Now let's link up. It's number love in this atmosphere. Peace, salutations, brothers and sisters, the fellas. We in here. Cheers.
Cheers. That's kind of shocking my system.
Water.
Yeah.
Boy, you know, say a lot.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Some water.
Yeah.
You know, it's really funny though. Even though I talk a lot of stuff, Junior, Brother Six will really tell you that I really only drink on this day for the podcast. Maybe a beer here and there, but I really don't drink at all except for this day on the podcast.
No,
True that. Fact.
So,
I've seen it.
but when I do. You know what he said? When I drink, I drink a Dusetsky or whatever. When I do.
You don't drink and then do the sucky, do you?
No, what I've been hearing in the back alley.
Mm-hmm.
What have you heard?
A lot of talk about critical race theory.
C.R.T.
So I'm gonna propose something today that we have never really done. I'm gonna throw it out there. So those watching and listening, I'm gonna propose we jump on this and jump off. But here's why. Because I think this is an excellent topic. Could be possibly one of the best topics we've ever had.
Okay.
So I want to jump on it to get it out there. Once we put it out there, give everybody a little time there's people that are listening to it, see it, and then we invite some people in. I think this is a conversation we need to have with at least 6-7 people, at least 2 or 3 more people on it.
I agree. I like that idea.
A more diverse, more broader. So if y'all don't mind, I like to start with
Set it off.
They say.
We
just gonna say they. So the they say, and it gets a little confusing. So I'm gonna kind of break it down a little bit. And I'm not meaning to insult anybody, but the kind of way they kind of write it, it's a little confusing. So I'm gonna break it down a little bit for you. So critical race theory, you may also hear it as C.R.T, is a cross-disciplinary intellectual and social movement, which means it spans across all of the academics, from the Ivy Leagues to the regular junior colleges, and of civil rights scholars and activists who seek to examine the intersection of race and in the United States. And for an example, the conceptual framework is that one way to study racial bias is through law and constitution, such as how and why the incarceration rates and sentencing is different among groups, like groups of color. One of the tenets of C.R.T. is that racism and unequal racial outcomes are a result of complex, changing, and often subtle social institutional dynamics, rather than explicit and international prejudice of individuals. Now, that was a lot. That's the part I really want to break down. So basically, in a nutshell, for anybody that's listening or watching, one of the main tenets of C.R.T. is what they're saying basically is, you know how, here's a good example, brothers. You know how somebody say, occasionally say, I'm not racist. I didn't have nothing to do with slavery. I didn't have nothing to do with the civil rights movement. I wasn't even born until the 70s.
Yeah.
So one of the main tenets of C.R.T. is, you may be correct in that. However, there's been so much racism, and it's done subtly through incarceration rates, through redlining of buying houses and homes, that it's actually in you, and things are happening, and it may be subtle, and you may not realize it, but the reason we are like we are, the reason that people of color still can't get bank loans and things of that nature is because of the subtle changes in laws and the government that have taken place over the last 100 years or 50 years.
Brother Six, no, I like it. I love it. I
like that too. I read a different avenue, still the same concept, but I was reading about the educational part of it in the schools and what they're teaching. It's a very scary thing, as if they're afraid to talk about it and bring it up, the conversation about racism, if you would. And it was very interesting on what they were talking about on how in the school system, how they taken out the Black history and they implementing something else that's totally different. And so it makes it very hard when you're dealing with the history of one group of people and you're dealing with another. And then you have just one so one subject to talk about, and that's another avenue. So I agree with you 100% that it's going to need more people in on this.
And I should have said that, but because truthfully, most, I ain't gonna say all because I don't know all, but most Black history. I actually took a Black history class when I was in college. Most Black classes study slavery and the civil rights movement. Like that's the only history that we have. They talk about, a couple inventions here and there, but truthfully, there is a what's the word I want to use? There is a gap in true of Americans of African descent.
Yeah, Mike, you might want to speak on this one. It's another one that the framework. We got to also remember that this was something that was created in the 80s, actually by the brother Derek Bell, is what I was reading with his theory back in '89. It is a framework and it is a theory, and we all know what a theory is. So I want to put that in there too. And like I was saying earlier, we do need more people because there's so many avenues to this, and there's so much that we can talk about, just the construct of all of this stuff, man. It is very interesting that we picked this topic.
I'm really interested in brother Mike D's opinion of this. For those that are watching and listening, although, first of all, let me tell you that fit is fly. That little put together, the yellow and the green.
Oh, thank you, brother. I try. Thank you, brother.
You looking pretty dapper there too, a little swollen.
I guess that's all leading up to say that you look like you done lost your weight. Yeah.
No, I ain't got that yet. No. But what I was gonna say is, those that are listening, although I am of the group, I've learned a lot from Brother Mike. Mike is a very knowledgeable person. He's one that I personally don't like the term, but if you want to use the term woke, he's been woke for a long time, and he introduced the majority of us in our group to reading and expanding our knowledge base outside of what we learned in the traditional educational system. So I want to give him props for that on the show, but I'm very interested in what he's got to say on this.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for that, bro, because that means a lot coming from you and Brother Six, based on where I put you both in just my pantheon of greats, you know what I'm saying, and people that I look up to. So I appreciate that, and I think we all learn from one another in many different ways. Everything that both of you said, I agree with. The one thing that I'm not quite sure on is that I don't know if CRT is actually being taught in most school systems. I don't think it's being taught. It's being explored, but the concept is there are certain think groups on the far right that have made CRT the boogeyman to get people out to vote and do things like that. And the talk that's being pushed in the school system, but they're not even teaching that because they're just not teaching that. There's no curriculum to teach that. But what some people are talking about is maybe teaching history from the perspective of all people. And that scares people, which is interesting. So the first thing I would say is, to have a working definition of what we talk about racism and things of that nature. So I tend to use the definition that was founded by our late great elder and ancestor now, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who had the Cress theory, and that was her theory was based on some work by Neely Fuller Jr. And you could get, so Dr. Cress Welsing has the book, The ISIS Papers. If you're not familiar with that, y'all should get that. Readers, viewers, get that. Now, Neely Fuller Jr.'s book is The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism / white supremacy. Long title, thick book, good book. Now, what he broke down was that he defined racism / white supremacy as a system that dominates all areas of people's activity, to include economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. So everything. So now when we talk about that and we deal with that, what does that mean? That means that in every aspect of our life, this system is there. And so CRT, the way that I see it, is not necessarily talking to every white person is this or every is this. It's talking about the system in which we all live. And so here's the concept. Because we know, you can pick up this book. I'm gonna have to get into it. I got several different ones. You got White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, which is a good book. This book right here, The History of White People, by Neil Irvin Painter. And again, we're talking about this, so I don't want people to get offended because I have friends that are quote unquote white, I'm quote unquote black, but these are social constructs. These are colors that are associated, but these are social constructs. It means absolutely nothing. We just buy into it, and the system has allocated this. So when we look at the system and we say that the system is based on whiteness, so the default is whiteness. So, you go to a job and you don't fill out the demographic things, the default is white. You see what I'm saying? The default is white. So in this system is white is good, the opposite being black or anything else is bad. This is all. People don't, whether you agree, whether you believe it, that's what you practice, It makes no system. It makes no difference. It's the system that is that. And why I say that is that in this construct, a good Black person is the exception to the rule. A bad white person is also the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
So in this system, so there has to be a top and a bottom in this. Therefore, when people believe in this social construct, anything that you do that deviates and takes away from that is automatically going to be denied. So when I think about critical race theory, it's simply, it's like, let me see, this book, it's maybe with the index 400 some odd pages, but let's say with just regular reading, it's like 300, almost 400 pages, right? And it's, I'm gonna see, the last chapter is 28. So the last chapter, I believe, is chapter 28 in this book. Imagine going to it, this is 28 chapters. Imagine trying to read this book in chapter 17. How effective do you think, how much information, how much do you think that you would get out of this story? If this was a story, if this was a novel, and it was 28 chapters, and you started at chapter 17, how much would you get? Do you think you would be missing something?
Mm-hmm.
You missing chapters 1 through 16.
Yes, sir.
You missing the beginning. You missing the whole setup. You missing all the characters. You missing the plot. You missing everything that got led up to chapter 16 to 17 to move forward to that. This is what history, this is what everything has been taught to us. We started damn near in the middle of something, and we wonder why we so jacked up. I
like the way you constructed that, bro.
But you know, they fear it too, though.
Well, the fear is based on, somebody told me this years ago. They said when people enslave you, they actually enslave themselves also, because they cannot afford to, and I mean that mentally, they can't afford to allow people to be free, because everyone in that social construct, that buys into it, has now tied themselves in their way of being to that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
But you know that it's weird because, you know, Brother Six says all the time, anything that, and I'm a paraphrase, of course, anything worth having or doing is worth laying your life on the line for it. So, and it's this theory is shaking the very construct or foundation or structure of America to a point where 2 weeks ago, and I'm not a big political guy. So anybody that's watching this, I'm not picking any sides or anything like that. I'm just stating a fact. 2 weeks ago, former President Trump was here in South Carolina. And let me tell you what he said. Are you familiar with this, Brother Mike?
Mm-mm.
Here's what he said.
Oh, no. You told me that. I remember you told me that.
In South Carolina, he said.
Nobody said anything.
And this is a quote, getting the critical race theory out of our schools is not just a matter of values. It is also a matter of national survival. We have no choice. The fate of any nation ultimately depends upon the willingness of its citizens to lay down their lives. And they must do this, lay down their very lives to defend their country. If we allow Marxists and communists and socialists to teach our children to hate America, there will be no one left to defend our flag or to protect our great country and its freedom. In saying that, he's basically saying that if Caucasian people, because let's just say what it is, were to believe in this and allow us to know our people of color, to know their history and know that they're being oppressed systematically, then America would no longer exist.
Here's really what they're saying. So digging into that deeper. So all you have to think about is what happened in January 6th and what he did leading up to that.
Follow up.
But hear me out. Hear me out. What he said and then what he did. See, when you understand, he's the type of person that the agitator, but don't jump in the mix. See, so he's rallying people up. Because remember this. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's 20. Thought it was 2040, but it may be 2035, something like that. Quote unquote European Americans. I wasn't gonna say white people, but European Americans are no longer going to be the majority in this country.
All right, being a minority.
And those numbers are speeding up in large majorities of states, many of them quote unquote red states. So these are marching orders because again, you have people believing in the social construct. Because when you look at Jim Crow, and I was trying to find this in Jim Crow because this was historical facts that after the was it doing Reconstruction, there was a period of time when both indentured blacks and whites and blacks that were freed from slavery were working together, and they were not tied to either party at the time, Republican or Democrat. They were like, neither one of them were benefiting us. It was the working poor all gathered. What they ended up doing to make a compromise, they had to do it. It was I think it might have been called the Great Compromise. The Southern states, so the Northern, they said in order to ratify, I forgot which president it was at the time, so forgive me, y'all. In order to ratify this president, the Southern states were saying, we'll let it go. But here's what you need to do. Y'all need to get all your troops up out of the South. And let us do what we do. And they was like, bet. So the very people that helped them to win, and we could talk more about, one day we have to do some more research and talk about Cinco de Mayo and the Black Maroons and those individuals down in Mexico that helped defeat Napoleon for a short period of time, which enabled the Union to win and to defeat, because Napoleon was setting up, had he won, to bring supplies to the Confederacy to help them in the war to do this thing. So had we not did what we did down there, escaped slaves and others down in Mexico with other natives to fight that. So we all up in the mix. But see, that's history. It's not about us talking about you hating America. That it's really identifying with everyone's contribution. But if your whole makeup is based on a lie, and all of a sudden that lie is exposed, like y'all didn't really get here on your own bootstrap. Like, let's examine, when we talk about the color law, let's examine the segregations, the federally mandated segregation laws and how ghettos were set up, the denying of home loans, the redlining, like you talked about. Let's talk about how wealth was actually distributed, and understand this, that many of the things when they talk about communists and all these other things, and we could bring others on that have more, many of those socialist ideas are the very things that saved America with the New Deal projects and things of that nature. But when all of those things were being passed out, we were the ones that were being left out. And so when we talk about wealth and all of these things that are happening, we were contributing but we were left out of, we were purposely left out. And so when we have this argument and that's just here. But see, we don't want to talk about it's 711 AD when we were invited over to Spain and in Europe, because the Visigoths and the Vandals were running rapid in Europe, and it destroyed what civilization you want to call Rome at the time.
Yeah.
They had pillaged all of that, and they went Dark Ages. Nobody was bathing on a regular basis. People were living in barns. Let's not act like people were living in cathedrals and castles. Those things were not built then. Right. Those things were built when the Moors came over.
That's right.
Let's understand that when we say Moors, we talk about African.
Right.
It came through. So when we start to talk about all of these things that happened, we talk about the individuals that brought enlightenment. There was Alan Deleuze was called, I think it was best. I got the book Golden Age of Moors. I think it was described as I don't want to call it the city of lights, but it was a place of knowledge. They translated the works of ancient Chinese and ancient Greeks. They translated out. As a matter of fact, Europe at the time, or what we call Western Europe, whatever, had no idea about the works of the Greeks and any of those things that they quote unquote tie into. They had no idea about those things. It was not until the Africans came over and started to translate those works and bring those things over and have those libraries that they were able to tie in later on down the line. You get the University of Cordova, you get Oxford University, the very Jewish people that went on to establish, or the people that established Oxford, they established those places. Those teachers came from learning under Africans. So when we sit back and say this is information that the world needs to know, we're saying that everybody contributed. So why would you be afraid to talk about that unless it's going to unravel yourself, your confidence
that you've created?
Exactly. And so, and think about this. If you analyze this, you think about this, because I was watching something earlier, and they were talking about the segregation. Why would you want to create a system where able-bodied people are not able to earn maximum dollars? Because wouldn't that money go to you?
Yeah.
Why would you create a system in which you discriminate against people so that they're not able to
none of it makes sense.
It only can make sense
now. Now, you raise gas prices to where a certain percentage of people really can't travel, they can't do nothing because they can't afford it. When if you keep the gas prices low, more people move, more people travel, you'll make more money. It's off subject. It is subject. We talked about a week ago, me and Brother Six, that like RVs. It's stupid. You sell an RV for $200,000 and only less than 1% can buy it. Think about whenever you've traveled, Brother Mike, when you on the highway, you always see them RV parks. They're always packed with RVs. How about drop the price where at least 15, 20, 30% of Americans can afford them? Then you'll sell more. You'll sell 3 to 4 times more than that. More people will be vacationing, and more people, it's a trick.
But the system is not based on it. It's not based on, it's based on exploitation. And when you talk about that, so think about that. Dr. Chancellor Wilson talks about this. I can't wait till Pat, your book comes out, we'll be able to quote some of the things that you talk about. But when you think about this, when some of these people talk about defending and going against C.R.T. and all that, they really telling on themselves. Because think about it. If you sit back and say, you got to be upset with this and you got to defend against this, and we can't talk about the very thing that destroys the country, the very thing that's not sustainable, the very thing that eliminates you or dismisses you from the human family, that cuts you out of human activity because of exploitation and the devaluing of other human beings, and yet you want to hold on to that. So what you're really saying is that America, in your eyes, is a white utopia.
Yeah.
But a white utopia for landowners. I didn't say homeowners. I get that. See, some of y'all out here playing, on the same, on the voting, and they ain't really talk about you. It's for those that have the money, the 1% or 2% or whatever. And I'm asking the question, it makes me wonder, you really are telling on yourself, because you're saying that this is what we see in a very narrow-minded way. This is how we view our country, and anything that goes against that doesn't uphold that white people discovered America, and that it was God's destiny that
Jesus was white.
That this happened, and we killed millions of Native Americans and indigenous people and enslaved millions or more in order to found this country and oppress millions of more people to keep this going. That's the thing that you want to continue to keep. And I'm like, you can have that. Actually, you can have it.
That is true, because they are telling on themselves. I was thinking about what Pat was saying about Trump, and you take Trump out, and he's just a man who's supporting the system. So it's really the system that we're discussing. It's not an individual or a group, man. It's something that it's just like you was just saying, Mike. It's the way this thing has been set up from the very beginning.
Look,
and to talk about that, or to talk about it, or to be a part of it, we just don't discuss it, man. It's just no one wants to talk about it.
And I'm gonna tell you, they have a weird backwards way of thinking, because in their
smart dummies.
If you teach a group of people about their history and uplift them, you're gonna tear down another group of people. When it's really not. Yeah. That makes no sense, really.
Well, but if you to do it on it, like, see, when I say this, people might look at this and say, uh-oh.
They are.
No, like what I'm saying is people gonna look at it and say, I'm not. These are just things. These are just facts. Like,
that we discussed.
When you're the newest on the planet, sometimes you gotta fall back. And you gotta let those that have been here from the beginning get it, do this thing. You know what I'm saying? Align this planet back to the way that it's supposed to be. Because all we got is one planet. All we got, as far as we know right now, we can't zoom light speed to another exoplanet. Because guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna always take you with you. So all that bigotry, all that hate, you just gonna take it to a whole nother planet and destroy those resources and to consume those resources and do all that. Think about when they talk about the world, and they talk about, and I know we might not even be on C.R.T. right now. We just rambling. Think about the things that the resources. It's 7 billion people, but 7 billion people are the people that are dumping large amounts of chemicals and oil in the oceans and in rivers and things of that nature. That's not most indigenous people's cultures are one that's based on great communication and relationship with nature.
Right.
It's when you have this system that exploits without giving, and somebody has to be on top for be on the bottom
for it to work.
For it to work.
The way it's set up, capitalism.
Yeah. So when you look at this, you sit back and you say, What is it that you really are seeing? And again, I look at who's talking. I'm looking at a person that told people, not to get vaccinated, but he had to get vaccinated. I'm looking at a person that said, go on down there to the thing and snatch up my feet and go out there and do what you do. But when it came time, he wasn't nowhere to be found.
I'll meet you down there, but didn't go.
Yeah, didn't never go.
What nowhere to be found. And the people that did all of that stuff, they was like, oh man, this ain't. And so what he's trying to do is get on the bandwagon, because again, you have these think tanks that our governor, they just was had on the news. Our governor here has put a bill. I don't know if he passed the bill or he put a bill out there, because I got to look at this thing, whether the floor, where you don't have to have a gun permit. You talked about that in Kentucky.
We already got that. They got it here too now.
Yeah, but guess what Kentucky is? Is a what? What state?
What?
It's a red state, right?
Yeah.
It's a red.
No, it's a red state. What's South Carolina?
A red state.
Beltline. The Bible Beltline.
What's Indiana? No, forget all of that. What's Indiana?
It's
a red state. What's Florida? A red state. What's Georgia? A red state. What's Texas? A red state. So what you see laws that are passed in one state, and you'll see another state pass very similar laws. Because guess what? There's a think tank. I forgot what. Oh man, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. But there's an actual group that actually is one of those main groups that put the propaganda out. That's where it's sold to the masses.
The Q.
No, not them. They ain't nothing. These are people that actually make policy.
That's
and
behind
these
the
policy,
doors.
these policy, they ain't behind the doors. They out in the open. But these are the people that
who you referring to, Mike?
I can't think of the name of it. It's like the Heritage Foundation. I think it's like one of them. I think they might be one. And what they do is they create policy. And from these policies, and these people all over come to these foundations, to these conferences, to these things. And this is how these laws get bailed out. So C.R.T. was one of the first boogie monsters. This is how they gonna get people to the polls. See, they already had planned that they were gonna lose. So they had already started talking about C.R.T. You know how quickly C.R.T. started coming out before the election was over with? They had already started placing that boogie monster because they needed to get, because these groups of people are based on fear. They coming, they about to take over. You ain't about to be able to do this. And so anytime you based in fear, I know how to control you. I know exactly what to say. I know exactly what to do to get you to do what I want you to do.
Right.
And that's what they have been doing. And the reason why the country is the way it's at is not because of Hispanics or other immigrants or Black people or anything. It's because our white brothers and sisters, our quote unquote white brothers and sisters, those that classify themselves as that, are still on that gravy train. They still believing in that social construct. They still believing, instead of tying in to the rest of us, to the working class people, and saying, yo, enough is enough. Like, we can't do nothing but watch. We cannot do anything. We cannot save it. We can't. As much as we want to, we can't, because it's not up to us. It's really not up to us. We cannot, I'm not even wanting the schools to talk about, because I don't want you to talk about Black history. I just want you to talk about history. And so what C.R.T. really is talking about history. It's kind of like, have you ever heard about, and there's books that are written about, let's talk about the Vietnam War. And there's certain things that they talk about, different constructs and different sides of the thing. Like, I remember watching MSNBC once before, and not saying that they writing exact. I think I remember watching something with Rachel Maddow, and they talked about, I hope I'm saying this one correct. They talked about during the Vietnam War, prior to Nixon being elected the first time, they had a peace agreement between the South and the North Vietnamese in place. Now we know how many hundreds of thousands and millions of people died in Vietnam. This was early on. But what supposedly how this went was that Nixon was sending back channel things to the North Vietnamese like, yo, if y'all continue, when I'm elected, I can get you a better deal. Don't sign this peace. So as they were trying to negotiate, and it was right there on the cusp, it's like, yo, I'm gonna get elected. And when I get elected, I got you. Well, guess what happens? It didn't get signed. He got elected. And guess what happened? The war continued. And how many uncles and aunt and cousins and brothers and husbands ended up dying? How many people died because of that? Well, what are you saying, Mike? I'm saying that when you examine real history, it's not about me giving you a book. And then from that, because I wrote the book, I now get to decide what's important and what you should know. Read the book and then you tell me, what did you get out of this? See, our whole education system is wrong. Education means to draw forth. So I don't write something. I don't give you this lesson and then write the questions and say, because now guess what I'm doing? I'm guessing what's important to you because you created the test, not what's important to me because I might have drew something different. If me and you wrote a book, if we read a book, I guarantee $1 to a bucket of doo-doo that when we say what we say, Pat, you're gonna have a different perspective on the book. Yeah. Six, you're gonna have a different perspective. I'm gonna have a different perspective, and we're gonna read the same chapters by the same author. Yours ain't no more right or wrong than I am, but that's what we gather. But guess what? If someone else created a test, they could write a test, and neither one of us, all three of us, could get it wrong, and we'd be like, well, where did they get that from? I didn't pick that up. Like that wasn't the thing that caught my eye.
Right.
But is that real education or is that just testing? Yeah. And that's where we at right now. This whole thing is in shambles, man. This whole thing is so they can fight about C.R.T. They can do whatever because they holding on to a string. And quite frankly, I'm just watching.
Yeah,
me too.
I could care less.
They use, they're using that. I've heard it where they're using it. You think about it in the straw man type of, type of deal. But you're absolutely right, man. That's all we can do is watch
and prepare. And this ain't about. This is a conversation that could be on air. This could be a conversation that's off air. Yeah, you gotta get ready. I was talking to a coworker of mine, and it was like, what happens if, what do we do? Because see, and this goes back to what we talked about before, Pat, when I was talking about the last conversation we had with Tadachi and Jimmy. When we so spread out, if something was to happen, how do we secure our community, our neighborhood? You know what I'm saying? And I simply say that to say that what we saw on January 6th was just a prelude, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As the numbers continue to move up, it's already saying that by 2050, maybe even before that, Nigeria alone will have more people in Nigeria than they have in all of Europe. Y'all ain't hearing me. You see what I'm saying? More people in one country in Africa than in all of Europe. What do you do? What do you do when your whole thought process is based on skin color?
And that's what.
What do you do when your whole makeup is based on a lie, a foundation that you started and everything began with you? The Hermetic hypothesis is a theory that's based on the story of Ham. Whether or not that's real or not, I ain't here to debate that.
Right.
But it's based on the fact that Ham was the cursed seed of Noah, right?
And those that don't know, Ham was one of 3 of Noah's sons. He had Ham, Jasheen, and Japheth.
Yeah. It could have been ham, bacon, and eggs. They could have been called whatever. Whether or not it was real or not, I ain't even here to talk about the historicity of those things. But Ham was supposed to be in that, exactly what you said. Cursed, his seed. And that has been historically assigned to who? Black people.
Mm-hmm.
Ham, Cam, the Cushite peoples, you know what I'm saying? The Black Sub-Saharan Africa, not North Africa. It's the reason why. I get to that.
Right.
So all of these people supposed to be there. So now, okay, they the cursed seed. Okay. So then they start going and they start doing some traveling. They go into North Africa and other areas, you know, along the Mediterranean, but specifically in Africa and things of that nature. And they see these things that they ain't never seen before. And they looking and they like, holy Jesus, holy moly guacamole. Who did it? Like, now they had to be dark, what they call them? Dark-skinned white people. Huh? Dark-skinned white people were the Hamites. Because now, see, you got to now switch it. You got to now switch the whole concept, because now they can't be cursed. Because the very things that you see, the very essence of your civilization and your creativity and your social structure came from here. Well, it couldn't have been Black people. So now I got to make it dark-skinned white people. So now you telling me that Black people, the first people on the planet, we just was sitting around waiting. We would just, matter of fact, we went up, we depavimentated, you came, and then we waited on some other people that came, that looked, that had less melanin, that come around and say, let's get it started, y'all. Let's start civilization. Where they do that at? It don't even make good common sense. But now, if I have to do that, I have to say that, because now I have to examine if my grandmother, if my mother and father, could you enslave your mother and father, your forebearers? Could you treat them in such a way to try to mark them out of history? Like you would have to create something that almost made them look like they were animals or less than human beings in order for you to cope.
Yeah.
And that's what we're dealing with.
What about this one, Mike? How about taking that same theory or facts, because those are facts, and taking it a step further to make that other look less than what they are as animals, 3/4 of a human? What else would you need? Because that would be the bottom. In order for you to be on top, you have to create something great, something white and powerful, unseen, unknown, but yet believe in it. Who I've never seen, and I love him, but I hate my brother who I see every day. Y'all know where I'm going with that. I ain't gonna say I'm gonna get off of it, but I see where you're headed with that. That's what we're talking about. Is it that deep?
Well, it's all those concepts. It's like,
Shine some
you know,
light on it.
in the circle, it talks about every nation shall worship under their own vine and fig tree. So everybody has the right to worship the Creator as they see it, and typically it's going to look like you. So I have no problem with your God looking like you in order to identify with you. That just don't work for me. See,
for us, it shouldn't.
Well, so my thing is this: as a human being, if you're about justice, and I remember James Baldwin saying this, and others said this. I think Paul Robeson, but specifically James Baldwin talked about, you know, not wanting to having the ability to not want to do or be anything like what you think I should be like. Just the freedom to not be you. Like, I may not even want to do anything that's associated with your system, but I reserve the right to be that. Not that I have to fit within your, whatever your construct, because they're still falling within your construct. So to me, when we talk about C.R.T, when we talk about critical race theory, yes, it's a theory, but really it's not. It's really not. It's really telling every aspect of the human experience from the beginning, good, bad, and indifferent.
Yeah.
It's about everything. It's about recognizing and understanding that at the very early stages of human existence, people in southern parts of Africa we're in existence. And from that, we migrated, many different migrations throughout not only that hemisphere, but the Western and whatever you want to call it, these different hemispheres. But more importantly, if you even look at just the beginning stages of that, you know that they're in the formation of language, in the formation of higher thought. We know human nature. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be rumblings. But then as you look out and you see, man, you can have that piece of land, and I got that piece of land, and we good. It's bountiful. It's plentiful. We ain't got to do that. That comes over growth. That comes growth when you can sit back and say, man, I just built something and the river just overflowed. So now I got to move back and maybe try to build on higher ground. But now it flows. So now it flows again, but somebody keeps track. So it passes down. So now we have to try to keep count. Well, how often does this river overflow? Now you're starting to create some numbers, and you dig what I'm saying? There's a whole thing that comes with that of higher intellect and higher learning that then goes. If it wasn't for Black people saying, yo, let's go, let's get it, we would not be where we at right now. None of us. These are actual factual dactuals. You see what I'm saying? This is it. But if you don't want to deal with that, that's on you. But I'm no longer asking for you to verify. If you don't want to get it, stay behind. But I'm going to talk about this, but more importantly, I'm going to talk about it and then build upon it. Because see, we got to use it to know our worth and know what we were able to do and what we all were able to do coming together. And now we got to then take it to the next level. You see what I'm saying? We're talking about space exploration. We're talking about all these other things. The planet is trying to heal itself. So we got to look at ourselves and say, man, what are we doing? How did we get to this point? What is it that we did to get to this point where we actually are killing ourselves? We only got one Earth, as far as we know. And we killing it. we are supposed to be so advanced, but any of us can walk 10 blocks and we can find homeless people. We got all this wealth. We so advanced, but people are still homeless. People are still hungry. Like that's not if you think about some of the things that we used to watch, if you ever watch Star Trek or whatever the case might, and they would go to these distant planets and travel, and some of them were so enlightened, they was like, we no longer have we artificial life, or we don't take on physical things, or we let those things behind, everybody eats and all those things. And it was crazy concepts to us, because we dealing in a concept where somebody got to be on top and somebody be on the bottom. And this is what quote unquote C.R.T. is all about. It's about really talking about everything, examining everything. What was good, was bad. Was integration good? Or did we need economic integration? Because we had economic segregation.
Yeah.
We have to examine those things. You see what I'm saying? We have to examine all of those things and say, let's talk about this. From my perspective, from Asian Americans, from Asians, in all different, in every facet of that, all of the different labels, man. It's so much, and it's unfortunate, because this is an opportunity for people to tie in, but they can't. And it's not, I mean, how do you argue that, man? How do you have a grown person come out and say, fight for your life, to destroy a concept, and you know that he ain't gonna bust a grape?
Yeah.
But beyond that, Pat, I ain't even mad at him saying it. I'm just tripping off the fools that follow it.
No,
deeper than that, the people that are willing to give their life for that reason.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? I see them lights. I see them lights.
I ain't gonna say it's crazy. It's just,
yeah.
Hey, he got game.
If that's what you want to
but
call it.
I really would like to explore this with a group of.
We got to, because there's some other people that are more knowledgeable on that concept. But I want to go beyond the concept, because again, it's not being taught. I want to go to the root of why this is now becoming it. Because see, in the next 4 or 8 years, it won't be C.R.T. It's gonna be something else. And I think we gotta talk about the root of it. So C.R.T. is the conversation, but there's a root to it. And I think that what we need to not, and what Pat always says that I think is extremely important is, what are we gonna do? What are the solutions? What are we gonna do? Because we can talk all day long about this, that, and the third. What is it that we are willing to do right here, right now, and moving forward that's gonna move our community, our culture forward, and ultimately fallen humanity? What are we gonna do? How are we gonna move that forward? That's the end game.
I was Pat had mentioned earlier too about that. That's funny, because that's been on my mind when you were talking. And then you ended with that on what are we gonna do? And like Pat said, I say it all the time about, be willing to die for something, and that is what it will take. And it, I'd rather live, like you say, Mike. I want to live. Well, for a certain cause as big as that system, burning down the system, because America is falling. The system is what we're referring to, and it's so many avenues. Like we agree. What do we do? How do we? How do we fix it, or or help, or do something about it? That's something, that this particular subject, for something like that, in order to give change, you got to have some brothers and sisters, white, black, green, yellow, or whatever, that's willing to die for that cause.
Well, beyond dying for it, and I know we got to go because some street lights is really flickering.
don't get it. I'm not talking about just a physical death.
No. I get what you're saying. I know Pat can talk about the raising of the dead. One day he'll get on there and tell us about how that happens. But I'm because I don't want people to mistake, what we've done and the careers that I've had, retiring from the military. Like it's not about the rise and fall or the wishing of a country or nothing like that. Don't like that's like trying to take the kneeling that Kaepernick did and try to say you against it. That's not even that. It's about destroying the mental and spiritual evil behind this falsehood. And that's what needs to burn. That what needs to burn, because nobody is going to be able to live in peace and harmony the way that we moving right now. Like we see what this is, and we, I don't know how many times we're gonna have to continue to go through this in order for us to say, yo, that's it. With that being said, brothers, Brother Pat,
we could get this Dr. Roy Brooks on here.
Okay, it's one of your peoples.
Nah, he's one of the quote unquote not necessarily founders, but one of the people that are pushing. He's a law professor that defines the critical race theory, and he's one of the leading experts or leaders in it. And it's got some contact information. I've just researched it. It's got some contact information on him. I wonder if we could reach out to him and maybe
we could do that. I got several different people in mind, and we could do several different iterations of it. I know I got a Kevin, like one of my guys that's on our versus thing that we do, Dr. Kevin Brooks. He teaches African American studies, I believe, at Michigan State. Cool brother, and he's heavy into it. I know he would enjoy that topic. I got John Jeter that used to work for Washington Post that's now still living in Costa Rica. He can add some light. There's several different, but we can try to reach out to some of these people, because there's some people that have some serious aspects. And then I want just our general people that are out here. I love to, I know plenty educators, and we got to have those talk. And we haven't touched yet, but I said we got about a 5 to 6 part series on education, different concepts, and this could be one of them too. And so getting educators on to really talk about it from their perspective. And again, we could talk about C.R.T, but more about the root behind the fight, because I think the story is really behind the fight against it.
Yeah.
I think the story is behind the fight. That's really the story. But with that, brothers, y'all got anything that y'all want to share before we head out?
I just want to close with, this has been a very interesting topic, and I'm looking forward to digging a little deeper into this. I don't have a vast amount of knowledge on this particular subject, so I'm going to do some research myself and get a little more well-versed on this. But it's always a pleasure to be in the midst of you, brothers, and I appreciate your time. And
Indeed. Brother Six, you got anything?
No, brother, I just want to thank you two brothers for having me on and giving me the opportunity to be a part of this. To our listeners, thank you again for joining in. And I'll say again, tell somebody, check us out. And amongst your friends, family, members, those you love, those you hate, have that conversation, because this is some serious stuff that we're talking about. And it just may be your life that's on the line, or someone that you have close that you'll have to save one day, with a conversation. Doesn't have to be physical all the time. Most of this stuff now is mental. Majority of it, all of it is. It's about how you think, and where you get your thinking and thoughts and processing that makes you come up with the conclusion that you're having today to live another hour. Very important.
Indeed.
That's all I really wanted to say. Mike, how about you?
I'm nothing, man. this I was telling my wife before we got on, man, I gotta get into I gotta deprogram myself from looking at this phone from time to time, and you can access movies and videos and different things like that. And I got to get back into books, man. You know what I mean? Because that's where it's at. You know what I mean? And so pick up a book, any kind of book, just pick up a book. I know we talked about it. We'll get into it. We'll figure out the right book to read, and we can talk about it and go through it. But let's do that as a community. Let's pick up a book. Let's pick up more books in whatever area, fiction, nonfiction, history, whatever. And let's get a little smaller. Let's expand our vocabulary, whatever the case might be. So with that, I ain't gonna say peace, salutations. One.
Peace. Right.